welcome back to Football Forecast. And today we'll be going through my Sunderland Newcastle combined 11 leading up to the biggest game of the weekend, the North East derby, the Tyne derby. And it's going to be really interesting to see who comes out on top in this game. If you enjoy this video, go subscribe to your channel as well as liking the video. Starting off with the keeper, and for Sunderland you've got a keeper in Robin Roofs who's been absolutely brilliant so far this season. For Newcastle United, you are probably between Ramsdale or Pope. Nick Pope, though, has been dropped or is apparently injured as Newcastle keeper, so I'm going to put forward Ramsdale as the keeper for Newcastle United. So it'll be Roos versus Ramsdale, and Robin Roos has been way better than Ramsdale so far this season. I know Ramsdale in times has been a very good keeper, especially, for example, in that sort of first season at Arsenal, second season at Arsenal, Ramsdale was good, but recently he sort of has dropped off a bit, and that is partly because of him leaving Arsenal. So for the keeper, I am going to go with Roofs, who's been one of the best keepers in the league this season. On to the right back, and we've got Tyne, a very good English right back, could push himself into the English squad, and Trey Hume, who's a sort of a classic old school fullback for Sunderland. And Hume has been good for Sunderland so far this season. A lot of these players for Sunderland are in form and having a standout seasons, as Sunderland are one of the stories so far to talk about. But then you look at the quality of Tyne, and I think he has to be picked in this combined 11, and he is an excellent fullback. And I think him and Lewis Hall are crucial reasons why Newcastle United is starting to play better recently. So then we've got the two centre halves, and for Newcastle you could talk about Botman, you could talk about Dan Burn, you could talk about Malik Chow, who's been one of the signings of the season, the German centre half. He's been absolutely brilliant and been a real revelation in the side for Newcastle United. For Sunderland, you could talk about Dan Ballard, who's done really well at sort of stepping up from the Championship to the Premier League, and he scored some crucial goals, a threat in both boxes, a great defensively and great at hitting the ball in the back of the net. But the main players to talk about in that Sunderland defence are Alderete and Muki Ailey, and Muki Ailey especially has been one of the other signings of the season. I'm going to go with two new signings here. I'm going to go with Muki Ailey and Malik Chow. I think two of the best players so far this season in defence. Then on to left back, and we've got Ronaldo, who has been solid for Sunderland so far this season, and we've got Lewis Hall. Lewis Hall has recently come back from injury, and look, injuries are a problem for Lewis Hall right now. But when Lewis Hall is fit, he is actually a very good left back. I wouldn't mind having him start for England, or at least be in that England setup. I think he's an excellent left back, and he 100% deserves to be in this combined 11. When Newcastle have Hall, and as I was saying, Livramento fit, they are a completely different side. So then into the midfield three, and we have got for Newcastle, we've got Joe Linton, we've got Ramsey, we have mainly though got Sandro Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes, two world-class midfielders in my opinion, especially Sandro Tonali, and they are brilliant for Newcastle United. And straight away I'm going to put those two in the combined 11. And look, Sunderland fans might say that it's harsh because they've got the likes of Siddiqui, they've got the likes of Habib Diarra, who struggled to stay fit, but he is a good player. But Siddiqui has actually been a standout player for Sunderland so far this season. But the Sunderland player that needs to be in this combined 11 in that midfield is Granit Xhaka, an absolute leader and a crucial reason why Sunderland are doing so well this season, and I think he's just added so much on the field but also off the field. So then on to the left wing, and for Sunderland you have got Enzo Lafay, who has ensured that he is starting the season for Sunderland over Simon Adingra. And for Newcastle United you have got Harvey Barnes and you have got Anthony Gordon. I think overall is the quality of player. As we've seen in the past, Anthony Gordon is absolutely brilliant, but he hasn't been good enough in the last sort of year now. And for that reason, I will be nominating Barnes as the Newcastle player, and I will be selecting Harvey Barnes in this combined 11. Lafay's been good, but I think Barnes has been slightly better. I do think, though, this is an interesting debate on the left wing. So then we're on to the striker position, and we have got Voltemade, who has started really well for Newcastle United so far, especially in the first sort of 5 games where it was feeling like he's scoring every game and with every shot he took. And I still think he's been good, Voltemade, and I think there's link-up play. His overall ability for being such a tall centre forward is so impressive, and he's been a great player for Newcastle. For Sunderland, I'm going to nominate Isdor. Isdor started the season really well. He hasn't been as good sort of in the last sort of 5 games, but he's still had a good season so far. I am though going to put Voltemade in. I think there is an argument that you could play 2 up front and you get a bit creative in that midfield, because I don't think the winger options for either side are that impressive compared to sort of the two striker options and the midfield options, but I have kept in a 4-3-3 shape, or very similar to a 4-3-3 shape, because that is what both sides play. So then we're ending with the right wing, and I think this is probably one of the weaker positions for both sides. For Sunderland, we have got Traore. He's been alright, nothing brilliant, but just a decent option. All the Sunderland players so far this season have just done a decent 6 out of 10 in a minimum, and that is a reason why I think they're so high up the table. And then for Newcastle United, I have nominated Jacob Murphy over Anthony Elanga. Murphy's been a lot better this season. I think he was about the same level as Elanga last year, and Murphy's actually just been playing really well for Newcastle United, and I don't think many people saw this coming from him to be this good for so long. Elanga, I think, could come good at some point because of sort of his speed and his ability on the counter, but teams sort of set back against Newcastle now, so he's Newcastle United now, so he's not as effective. For this combined 11, though, I'm going to be going with Jacob Murphy. I just think he's a better player than Traore, and he's playing better than Traore. Finally, we have got the manager, and if this was solely based off this season, which it isn't, then I think you definitely go with Reggie Labrie, who has been excellent so far this season for Sunderland, and maybe at some point we will be talking about Reggie Labrie in the same conversation as Eddie Howe, but I think Eddie Howe was a brilliant manager. I think he's one of the top managers in the league right now, and he won a trophy last year. He's got Newcastle into the top 4 twice now, and he continues to progress the club in the right direction. You never know, maybe at some point we will be talking about Reggie Labrie. If Reggie Labrie gets Sunderland into Europe by the end of the season, then we could be talking about why Reggie Labrie is as good of a manager as Eddie Howe, and for me, Eddie Howe was a top manager, so you've done very well to get into that bracket. Let me know your thoughts on this combined 11. This could seem a bit harsh to Sunderland, considering that Newcastle have 8 players plus the manager compared to Sunderland's only 3 players, but it wasn't just solely based off this season. If these players keep performing at the level that they are, then the combined 11 could look completely different by the end of the season, but it wasn't just solely based off this season. If you enjoyed this, it would be great if you subscribe to this channel as well as liking the video.